I don't get a good feel for her.
I think she's an idiot.
Right.
Mary, why do you think that she's not that bright?
Because she hasn't done anything in the time that she's had. We don't know anything about her as far as her 3 years so far in the White House. She's not real smart.
So now that Kamala Harris is the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party for president, we're seeing a phenomenon take place in news, in cable news, in the media. Let's call them Kamalagasms. It's a work in progress, but they report on Kamala Harris in such a way that when they're done, it's like they need to towel off afterwards. We haven't seen this sort of thing since 2008 when they had Obamagasms. And they're definitely trying to get the band back together with Kamala Harris, I assure you. And so they're thinking now that they've got their brave new queen out there dancing for them so that they can make their way into victory this November, that when they go into the swing states where Joe Biden was absolutely tanking, even though they didn't concede that he was tanking, they said, oh, it's a battleground, it's neck and neck, it's very close. No, he was tanking. Well, now they think with Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket, everything is solved. And she's just going to run away with it. So MSNBC went to Wisconsin and deliberately, specifically impaneled nothing but women voters. We want to talk to the women of Wisconsin and find out how much they love Kamala Harris. And, well, they found out how much these women love Kamala Harris. Not very much.
How do you perceive Vice President Harris compared to President Biden in terms of competency and experience?
I think she's worse. She doesn't even know what's going on at the border.
Right.
And that's what she was
supposed to be doing
and in charge of. I mean, as a school teacher, if I did not do what I was supposed to be doing, you better believe my job would be in jeopardy. Well, it isn't. It not only was her job not in jeopardy, she was just handed a promotion.
Is there anyone that Kamala Harris could appoint as her vice president that you would find reassuring, would make you consider voting for her?
No. Never considered voting for her. No.
I would do RFK Jr. way before her.
Yeah,
Same.
absolutely.
Yeah. And she's not the first woman to run for the presidency, Hillary Clinton. I'm assuming no one voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. So it's not necessarily going to sway you to vote for a woman in office. When do you think America will have a female president?
When there's a competent one.
Just, I don't get a good feel for her.
I think she's an idiot.
Right.
I'm sorry. I love these women so much. I want to go out for beers and cheese curds with them because that's what you do in Wisconsin. Was that not great? When do you think we will have our first woman president? When we get a competent one? I think she's an idiot. I mean, I love that they're not even trying. They're not even trying to sort of defer and sort of. And this poor MSNBC woman, she's like, I see. Okay. Well, next question then.
Right.
Mary, why do you think that she's not that bright?
Because she hasn't done anything in the time that she's had. We don't know anything about her as far as her 3 years so far in the White House. She's not real smart.
Oh, no. Wait, she's very smart. She has done something, Mary. I hate to disagree with you. She's done something. Absolutely. She was the border czar, which was the greatest debacle of the Biden administration. And that's why these very same media people who celebrated her as the border czar 3 years ago are now trying to literally rewrite history and tell you that she was never the border czar. We'll get to more of that in just a moment. But clearly, if you're looking to get excited and have a little Kamalagasm about how great she is and how she's just going to storm through all of these battleground states and take the election from Trump, that segment right there ain't giving you what you want. So, all right, fine. Women voters, maybe there's just no hope for those Wisconsin women. Quick, Turn the channel, honey. Let's go to CNN and see how she's going to do with black voters because she's black, right? I mean, all we know is identity politics. So she's a woman. It didn't work out well. Okay, how about black? How about black? Please tell me she's doing well with black voters.
The numbers that came out were basically 70-something percent, 77%, or there it is, 76% would go with Kamala Harris, 21% with Donald Trump. Those are historic highs for a Republican, never mind Donald Trump, who I think got, a heck of a lot less than that. What does she need to do in your mind to try and get potentially some of those voters back? And we know that black men are the numbers that are growing for Donald Trump.
Absolutely. So when we think about it, typically Republicans get about 12% of the black men vote and black vote collectively. So we got to shift that.
They got to ship it away. They're hoping that Kamala Harris is going to increase the black male vote for the Democrat ticket, and that's going to be the secret sauce. And clearly, as you saw from the initial polls, it ain't working out that way. And I do love that. I mean, think about this as a graphic. This is how much they've taken the black vote for granted, the Democrats and the media. Look at that. She is winning 3-1 against Donald Trump. And that makes them panic. 21% of black voters right now are saying they're going to vote for Donald Trump, and they think that's insane. That's how taken for granted the black vote has been historically in this country. That this sends them into a panic, that they can't afford to let 21% of one specific demographic go off the reservation and vote for the person that they demand they vote for, and understand what the implication here is and how they're reporting this. What the hell is wrong with them? She's black after all, which is, by the way, the epitome of racism. Think about it this way. If a white voter says, well, that's it, I'm not voting for Kamala Harris, I'm voting for Trump because he's white, that would be kind of racist, right? But here, they're dumbfounded that black voters aren't going to vote for Kamala Harris for the exact same reason. And there's only one way to explain why they look at voters this way. Because they're racist. Meanwhile, Ron DeSantis, I do love it when he sort of emerges and sort of delivers his own political opinion on the national landscape. He had plenty to say about Kamala Harris as the new head of the Democrat ticket.
If I had to pick someone once Biden stepped, I would probably pick Harris to run against. I think that she's been, her tenure as VP has been disastrous. She was put in charge of the border. The media was running with that in 21. Harris will be the oversee border. Now they're saying, oh, no, she wasn't overseeing border. And these are the same reporters who wrote 4 years ago are now writing the opposite. They're running interference for her because of all the failures. That border ranks near the top of the failures of the Biden-Harris administration. And so she was there. If you go back and watch her statements for when she was running for president in the 2020 cycle, I mean, she basically said, have an open border. She wants taxpayer-funded health care and benefits for illegal aliens. She doesn't think you should deport somebody that's come. So she is, as bad as Biden's been on that, she's even more liberal on that. You look, she wanted to get rid of all private health insurance and said, let's just junk all that. Really? How many of you want the government to take away your private health insurance? I don't think a lot of Americans want to sign up to that. She supported confiscatory tax increases. She's been weak on crime. Now she's saying she's a prosecutor. She's tough. She was raising funds to bail out the rioters during the BLM riots in 2020. Are you kidding me? She was saying that Minneapolis needed to do more of what was going on. So I don't think who she picks is going to make a difference. Now, I've also said, and this is just true, the media turned on.
All right, that's a good analysis there from Ron DeSantis. Do you think he was loaded up and ready to go if he was picked as Trump's running mate to go against Kamala Harris? He had his entire talking point book open and ready to go at a moment's notice. And meanwhile, you heard him mention and you heard me mention, we talked about this a bit yesterday, how the media is now literally trying to erase history before your very eyes. as they tell you that Kamala Harris was never the border czar. Oh, no, these are lies. And in fact, this is what's, well, let me show you the video first, and then I'll tell you exactly what setup they're doing, what they're trying to build here. Our friends over at Media Research Center, they're so good. They put together lickety-split a quick montage of how the media described Kamala Harris as the border czar when she was the running mate to Joe Biden, and now that she's the head of the ticket, what they're saying. Take a look.
Quote unquote border czar. Vice President Harris was not a border czar.
Meantime, Vice President and border czar Kamala Harris facing some backlash.
What he said about Harris and immigration was not true. She was never appointed border czar.
And this will be her first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border region since she was appointed as the border czar by President Biden.
People are going to have to counter the misinformation. You already hear folks talking about the border czar. She wasn't the border czar.
President Biden tapped Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, to be the border czar.
Now, she wasn't the border czar. That's what Republicans labeled her.
They were very critical of Kamala Harris, especially in her role as border czar.
Now what she's up against is folks lying about her border record, calling her a border czar.
Kamala Harris, who was appointed as the border czar.
The Biden team didn't declare her the border czar. They wanted her to work on kind of the root causes of immigration.
There has been so much criticism against Kamala Harris. You know, she was the border czar.
Calling her sort of the border czar, which wasn't necessarily the case.
So the border, if they weren't planning to address it in a major way, do not make her your border czar. She met with some of the Northern Triangle countries, but nothing has effectively changed.
Nice work, as I said, from Media Research Center. All right, so what does this tell you? Two things here that I want to point out for you. First of all, the most important takeaway from this new attempt to be, you know, this is so Stalin-esque. This is like, you know, erase the apparatchik from the picture now that we've disappeared them and they're no longer in favor of the party. And this across the board, you just saw it in corporate media participating in this unbelievable, before your very eyes, rewriting and whitewashing of history, recent history. You know, we're used to them whitewashing Civil War era history. They're erasing history from 6 months ago, right? And they think they can get away with it. There's two things to take away from this. Number one, and the most important thing that I hope the Trump people understand in all of this, that they if they want to spend some time hammering the media about what they're trying to do here, that's fine. But that's not the real takeaway. The takeaway is they would not be doing this if they didn't know for a fact that she is incredibly vulnerable on the border issue. That the only otherwise, and listen, Joe Biden last night lied in his speech saying border crossings are lower now than they were when Trump was in office. If they really believed that, if they really, really believed that, and they thought they could sell that to the American people, Kamala Harris would be up front saying, that's right, and I was the border czar. This great success that we have at the border that Joe Biden is bragging about right now, our incredible success at the border is thanks to me. But they're not doing that. They're doing the opposite of that. It's because they know. They know how vulnerable they are, and specifically how vulnerable she is. Now, this doesn't help them because it doesn't matter what her title is. It doesn't matter whether she was border czar or not. She owns these policies. She owns every single Biden policy. It's the Biden-Harris administration, after all. And at this point, most Americans seeing Joe Biden and seeing how he's functioning, they don't think he was making any decisions in the last couple of years, if ever. So who was? Well, she's number two. So keep your eye and focus on the prize here, which is the border is a disaster. They know it, and that's why they're trying to distract and distance themselves. Hammer it, hammer it, hammer it. One other thing that's going on here. By getting the media to do this constantly, when Kamala Harris finally has a debate with Donald Trump and Donald Trump calls her the border czar, she'll be able to say at the debate, now that's a lie. That's disinformation. That's already been fact-checked by 18 different news organizations. In fact, 51 former intelligence experts have said that calling me the border czar is Russian disinformation. That's what's happening. This is how they do it. They already know up front what narratives are going to hurt them, so they get their allies in the corporate legacy propaganda press to lay the foundations for them so that weeks or months from now, they can say, oh, that's been debunked. That's a lie. It's disinformation. Google it. And of course, Google has already set up the algorithms so that when you Google it, you'll see everything that the regime wants you to see. Those are the two things going on right here. And thankfully, you're smart enough to see right through it.